Good morning, geniuses. Brannon at Brannon Sax with even more tips and suggestions to improve your playing. In the last video, we spoke about breath control using the breathe down method. I briefly went over articulations as it relates to releasing air through your mouth. This week, I'd like to go into a little more detail about how to perform articulation and the different types of articulations. You may have heard a band director or music teacher refer to as an articulation as an attack. That works well if you're a percussionist, but I prefer to think of articulation as a release. We will use our tongue to stop the flow of air into the mouthpiece and release the air into the horn to begin a note. We will again use our tongue to stop the flow of air at the conclusion of a note or to separate notes in a phrase. Remember from the last video, we used these steps to simulate articulation. Close your teeth together. Arch your tongue upward toward your soft palate. Place the tip of your tongue just behind your teeth to close off the airstream. Engage your abdominal muscles to push air through your windpipe and release your tongue backwards with a tss sound. The one thing we will never do, or hardly ever do, is use air to produce articulations. We will always use our tongue to stop the flow of air into the mouthpiece. Now I'd like to talk about the different types of articulations we will see on sheet music. I'll give a brief explanation of my interpretation of each articulation, show an example of what each articulation looks like on the page, and perform a brief example of each articulation using the concert B-flat scale. That's G major for alto and baritone saxophones, C major for soprano, tenor, and our trumpet and clarinet friends, and F for you French horn players. Hopefully I'll play those examples in tune. Most people describe articulations in terms of long and short. The important thing to remember is that the value of the note does not change based on articulation notation. A quarter note is still a quarter note, regardless of the articulation. In 4/4, for example, we release a quarter note at the beginning of a beat and conclude it at the beginning of the next beat, giving a quarter note one full beat of value. I like to think of articulations in terms of the amount of space between each note. I tend to relate some of my descriptions to singing, since most of us at least try to sing and can kind of relate to what I'm saying. Shorter articulations have more space between notes, and longer articulations have less space between notes. Tenuto. This is the standard articulation where no notation is given. This would be like singing a song where every word or syllable has a single note attached to it, kind of like happy birthday. Slur. Slurs are curved lines above or below a series of notes that indicate that all notes in that series are connected. Slurred notes are smeared or closely smeared together. Our trombone friends have some difficulty smearing notes together, else they get a glissando. So they perform a very light articulation, sometimes closing the airstream at the roof of their mouth instead of behind their teeth, giving a la-la syllable instead of a tss syllable. Think of kind of like a song where you would change notes on the same word or syllable. Ah, for example. Legato. Notes marked with legato lines have the smallest amount of space between notes. I think of it as a song sung lyrically, like a ballad, where each word or syllable has its own note, but the phrases are still connected. Most performers sing the national anthem in a legato style. Staccato. Notes marked with staccato dots have more space between notes. We still release notes on the beat, but we will add some separation before the next note and keep the full value of each note. A march tends to have an implied staccato even when it's not written. accent. Accents indicate a note that should have more inflection than a standard note. We might say we attack these notes harder or give them a little punch. Accents should grab your attention a bit more, but note values and overall dynamics should not be affected. Sometimes accents can be added with other articulations like legato or staccato. Marcato. Marcato marks indicate the most space between notes, coupled with a bit of an accent. Remember that the value of each note does not change, we just add a bit more space than staccato between each note. Those are the most common articulations you'll encounter. There are some modern and graphic notation pieces that may use other specialized notation, but that should be explained by the composer, arranger, director, or conductor. As always, if you have any questions, please feel free to contact me at the email address below. Also, I'm offering private lessons primarily for saxophone, but also for beginning flute or clarinet this summer via Zoom or Skype. Please use that same email to inquire about private lessons. If you haven't yet, be sure to hit the like button and subscribe to my channel to keep informed when new videos with more advice are available. Stay tuned.